is Shrinkala Kramacharya, and today I'm doing the red cabbage lab to test for the pH for acid and bases. I'm doing this for my ANP2 class for Western Oklahoma State College. This is my ID here. So I have this worksheet which I'm going to follow. I have all the materials prepared. We have 7 materials here that we're going to test: vinegar, ammonia, lime juice, distilled water, tap water, baking soda, and hand soap. And to test the pH, I have pH strips, and then I also have the red cabbage all prepared. So I have to chop cabbage into small pieces and boil it in 600 milliliters of water for 20 minutes. I've already done that, and I have to strain the cabbage out of the water and discard the cabbage pieces. I've already done that, and I have the cabbage juice ready to go. And I need 7 clear cups labeled with each materials that we're gonna test. I also have all that ready with 50 milliliters of material in each cup, except for the baking soda. For the baking soda, I have 3 tablespoons of baking soda mixed into 100 milliliters of water. For the baking soda and the hand soap, I used distilled water instead of tap water so as to not disturb its pH. So these are my materials that I'm going to test on. I have distilled water, tap water, hand soap mixed in distilled water. I have vinegar, this was white vinegar. I have lime juice, baking soda, 3 tablespoons mixed in 100 milliliters of distilled water. And I have ammonia. And then I have these pH test strips which I'm going to test. And I'm going to be comparing them to this color here to determine the pH of the liquid. So I'm going to take a strip and dip it in the material to be tested. And then I'm going to let it dry for a little bit before I place it in front of the cup so I know which strip is which. I'm going to follow the same process for all 7 materials. So I have all the test strips in front of the cups, and I'm going to be comparing them to this color scale that came on the pH test paper, and I will be writing that down on my chart here. So it's kind of hard to see in camera, but for the distilled water I got an 8, and for tap water I got a 9. It looks a lot more similar in person, even though it looks like different shade of color in the camera. And the hand soap didn't really change the color of the paper, it's still the same yellow, so it's very close to a 6. And then vinegar is a 3, so is the lime juice a 3, and the baking soda, it's close to a 10, and the ammonia, it looks a little green now that I put it on the surface, but it was a deep purple. It was a 12 when I tasted it just a minute ago. So I've written that down on my table on my worksheet, and now I'm going to be using this cabbage juice that I have, and I'm going to use this beaker to put 25 milliliters of cabbage juice in each solution and see how that changes the color and how it reacts with the material. So the cabbage is ready to go, 25 milliliters. I'm going to place it in the materials one by one to see how it changes the color of the material. The color of the material after I place the cabbages, it should look very similar to the color of the pH test strips. So let's start with that distilled water. The distilled water is not going to look as the same as our pH strip, because distilled water should be neutral. Its pH should be neutral, so basically it shouldn't change the color of the cabbages. So when you compare it with the cabbages, that looks very similar, so that was a success. And I'm gonna do the same thing for all the 7 materials. Okay, moving on to our tap water. I'm expecting to see the similar reaction like with the distilled water, because they were very similar in the pH. And as you can see, that's purple as well, just like the cabbages. Okay, moving on to our hand soap. That is a very pretty color of magenta. Let's see. It looks different from the test strip, because the test strip it remained yellow like it was, so it was 6. So it's more on the neutral side. The hand soap, it was more on the neutral side, so it didn't really change the color completely. It just turned a little pink. Now onto the vinegar. Okay, it does look very similar to the pH strip, even though it looks a lot different on the camera. In real life it does look very similar. Okay. Now into the lime juice. You should see a similar color because they were very close in the pH scale. Looks like a little bubblegum pink. It does look similar to its pH test. However, it's not the exact same color, but it does look very similar. Now we're moving on to the baking soda. I have a spoon in there to mix the baking soda because it keeps settling at the bottom. So now it looks different on camera, but it does look, even though it looks kind of bluish in the camera, it is green in real life, and it does look very similar to the test strips. I'm not able to capture that in the camera for some reason. Anyway, we're gonna move on to ammonia now. Okay, so I'm gonna pour the cabbages and the ammonia. Now that is a beautiful emerald green, and it does look very similar. In fact, it does look the same color as its test paper. So that's it for the experiment. I'm just gonna put all the information on this table over here. That's it. Thank you.